my parents came up in the Nation of Islam. I mean, they grew up in a segregated society, but they were one of the first generation to kind of be ushered in. They got to go to Ivy League schools and everything. They were pretty much the first generation of African Americans, and so they were drawn to groups like the Nation of Islam and the Panthers because they had this edge. They had this sort of like defiance. Yes. And it was interesting because one of my dad's friends who was in the Nation with him, they subsequently left, but I saw him when I was an adult a few years ago. And we were talking about those times and those experiences. And he said, yeah, you know, I knew your dad back then. And he was like, you know, we knew that, you know, the Nation of Islam was kind of teaching this idea of black supremacy, which at the time he said, you know, that was probably a great, you know, antidote to the poison of white supremacy. Right. But if you keep taking the same poison, you'll be, you know. Can you expound like maybe how that relates to women, or like some brass tack examples you've come across either in the literature or in your own life about?
Well, again. I have controversial views here, and that is, so if you want to talk about supremacy, supremacy to me is determined by potential. And potential for what? I would say potential to access genius, to access what's called emptiness, to access what's called flow states. They're all the same thing, and so it's a quotient, right? It's a mystical quotient, and so then what I would say is those who are the least bound to normative or mainstream culture are the people who have the greatest potential because they have the least to lose and the fewest controls on them, right? So what you find is the greater the oppression, the greater the potential. So in that way, I do believe in black supremacy, and I do believe in female supremacy. I do believe that the further out you move, the more rich the potential. And I also believe that that's why the controls are placed on these people. If it could be, you know, and I'll speak for women, but if it could be that instead of me getting aggrieved about the fact that there's all of these controls on me as a woman, right? There's all these controls. If I could recode that as the signifier that tells me time and again that my power is viewed as threatening, and so it's perceived that you need to control me, then you have a very different game. Because now I'm coming from a place of strength in terms of how I view the world looking at me. The only issue I think you have for marginalized people is we don't have phenomena coded correctly. So, you know, women say, "Oh, he was mansplaining." No, he actually only has that singular linear way of speaking and understanding. That person was tone deaf. Yes, privilege makes you deaf and blind. Like you're saying it as if it's done with malice. No, it's done with ignorance. Do not give people credit where credit isn't due.
Wow, that's so powerful.